Hey guys, it's Kirby. Welcome to my channel. We are starting our April dupe series early this year because hashtag coronavirus, but in today's video we are putting e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer against MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot. They are going to face off. If you are interested to see how either of these products perform, if they are a dupe for each other, price, application, how I got this look using these eyeshadow bases, then please keep watching. So my dupe series, if you are new here in 2020, hi, welcome. My dupes series falls in April because I think April Fools, April dupes, I think it's just a cute little play on words. None of these videos are sponsored. I have purchased all of these products myself with my own money, which means all of the opinions are my own. A lot of these videos are like first impression comparison videos. So if you are interested, keep watching. I do the dupe series because a lot of people just can't afford high-end products. Sometimes there's like animal cruelty things going on. It's also nice just to know like different varieties of makeup that are similar out there. I'm not trying to say that dupes are better. I'm a big fan of a good dupe. I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about dupes, and please let me know all of those in the comment section below. I like a good dupe. I think a lot of people like a good dupe. Just in my mind, a dupe is something that provides someone without the budget for high-end to create the same look. And I think that that is pretty awesome in like this space because not all of us can afford the $125 palette. Not everybody can afford the $22 pot of eyeshadow. You know, some of us are looking for a good, inexpensive alternative so that we can create those same looks at home. And some of us just need a less expensive alternative. So I don't mind a good dupe, personal opinion. In today's video, the face-off is between the MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot versus the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. I'm personally testing out the Soft Ochre Paint Pot today against the Cream Putty Eye Primer. When e.l.f. recently released their Putty Eye Primer, a lot of people were saying that it was like a great dupe for the MAC Paint Pot. However, let's spill the tea on these two products, shall we? Let's start with the e.l.f. The e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer is $5. It comes in 6 shades: white, cream, rose, sand, clay, and black. We are testing out the cream because I thought that it was most like the Soft Ochre Paint Pot, which I already own. The MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot is $22. On their website currently it has 6 shades, which are Frosted Dirty Peach, which is frosty and shimmery, Soft Ochre, Painterly, Layin' Low, Groundwork, Bare Steady, which also has a gold pearl. As far as I know, the other 4 are like matte. They have no like shimmers to them. The e.l.f. Putty Eye Primers are all matte. They have like no shimmer to them. And also in my little bit of research, I found that the Soft Ochre and the Painterly are the 2 that are most used as eyeshadow bases, and or were most used as eyeshadow bases, because I feel like the Soft Ochre Paint Pot was very popular a couple years ago. Then people started using concealer as eyeshadow primer, and then P. Louise came out with everything, and pretty much nobody's looked back since. So that's where we're at in life. That's where we're at in the beauty community. I've already done my face, eyebrows, foundation, contour, all that jazz, just so that like it looks somewhat nice when I talk to you without makeup on. I haven't done anything to my eyes yet. Nothing is on them. We're going to test these out. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer on this eye, and I'm going to use the MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot on this side. While I'm getting ready, I should say, there's a $17 difference between these, with e.l.f. being $5 and MAC being $22. So if this is a money concern rather than like a brand concern, there's $17 difference. Here is the packaging for the 2 products. MAC comes in a glass pot with a black top. This is what all of MAC's products look like. The e.l.f. comes in a plastic bottle with a black top. e.l.f. recently has been updating a lot of their packaging to look a lot more sleek, a lot more high-end, and just a lot more like aesthetically pleasing, if you will. So what I'm going to do is just apply both of these with my finger and then blend them out with a sponge, and then we're going to put eyeshadow directly on top of it and not set it because that's how I would normally wear my primer, is just not set it and put the eyeshadow directly on. So we are first taking the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer, swirling it around a little bit, applying it with my finger. It has a much better application with a finger application. I tried putting it on with like a concealer brush yesterday and it did not work out so well, but I'm noticing that putting it on with my finger applied so much better and more like seamlessly than with like a little concealer brush. So maybe like your finger or like a bigger brush would have been better than like a tiny little concealer brush. Now going into the soft ochre paint pot and applying it to the other eye. Same with the soft ochre paint pot. I have owned this paint pot for a little while and I've only used it a couple times. I never like how it applies with a brush, even though that's how everybody recommends it. But honestly, I'm noticing like both of them are applying much better with a finger application rather than a brush application. And maybe I'm just always using too small of a brush or not the right brush or something, but finger application, both seamless. I will say the soft ochre paint pot is much more creamy than the Putty Eye Primer. The Putty Eye Primer is very dry and it's not very pliable like the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer, the face putty, which I did a video on this last year because this is a dupe for the Tatcha Silk Canvas. I'll put a card. But this is very like putty and very like pliable and it's a little bit more moist. The e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer is very dry and it doesn't, I don't know, it's just not as pliable. It's just not as, there's a word I'm looking for, but I can't, it's not as viscous, but that's not what I want. It's not as creamy. I'll just put it that way. It's not as creamy as the paint pot, and the paint pot does have slightly more pigment, but as you can see side by side, like I'm still getting a nice coverage on my eyes. Like it is covering up discoloration and veins and things like that. Moving on to the actual eyeshadow application, what we're going to do is take an eyeshadow. I'm going to go into my Certified Tropical Wonders palette and I'm going to take this color Shrimp up here. I've never used it before and I kind of want to see what it's about. And I'm going to apply that. This is kind of going to be like a monochromatic eye look, and I'm just going to apply it everywhere. I'm going to use two different brushes. The brushes I'm using are an E23 and an E27 by Morphe. They're very similar. They're fluffy blending brushes. And I just don't want this eye look to be anything complicated because I just want to see if, like, their performance, if that makes sense. So first going into the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer side. That's picking up the eyeshadow really, really nicely and it's blending out really nicely. Sometimes when you don't set eyeshadow primers, they have a tendency to grab onto eyeshadows and not blend out. But that's actually blending out really nicely and grabbing the eyeshadow really nicely as well. Yeah, that looks really nice. I'm happy with how that performed. Alright, going in with that same shrimp color with a different brush, going on the Pro Longwear paint pot side. Same as the Putty Eye Primer, it is catching the eyeshadow a little bit more quickly. It's not harder to blend out per se, but it is adhering a little bit more quickly than the putty side. Like I said, when you don't set certain eyeshadow primers, they have a tendency to cling onto eyeshadow and makes it a little bit more difficult to blend out. It's blending well, but it is catching the eyeshadow pretty quickly, if that makes sense. Am I explaining myself right? So this is the eyeshadow application side by side. Again, one color, blended out, nothing fancy, because I don't think a lot of people, like everyday people, work makeup and things like that. I don't think a lot of people are doing anything crazy fancy. I don't know. Tell me in the comment section below. Are you like going all out for the office and am I totally wrong? So one color blended out. I honestly think side by side that they performed really, really well together. Like I said, the Putty Eye Primer side, very easy to blend out. The eyeshadow adhered very well. The Pro Longwear Paint Pot side caught the eyeshadow very quickly. Was easy to blend out, but I would be more careful in my eyeshadow placement. But overall, they are performing the exact same. The only difference that I'm noticing right now is in texture. The Paint Pot, so much more creamy, a little bit more pigmented, and the Putty Eye Primer is just very dry and it isn't as malleable. Is that the word I was looking for? Did I say that before? Yeah, it isn't as malleable, and so it's sometimes hard to work with, and I can see how that would be difficult if you were trying to do like a cut crease, or if you were trying to lay this primer on top of already set eyeshadow. That could be a problem. Maybe that's like what we'll try. This is what we're gonna do real quick. Alright, now we're just going to do a quick little cut crease test, because I think that this is, you lay your base, you put your eyeshadow on. If you're gonna do anything like extreme, you just lay it on top over already put on eyeshadow. So that's what we're gonna do, a little like cut crease test, if you will. And the eyeshadow shade that I'm going to use on top of this is Peach from my Violet Voss Rainbow eyeshadow palette. I'm going to use Peach. And I am using like synthetic brushes. They're kind of like little concealer brushes. Putty eyeshadow primer first. Loaded up the brush. Yeah, that's just like, it doesn't glide, and so it would be very difficult, I feel like, to, basically if you're not, like, if you're trying to do some artistry work, I feel like this might not be the primer to like take you to be doing all kinds of like crazy artistry work on an eyelid. It just drags and it gets caught, and that's like, it's hard to smooth and blend. Does that make sense? Alright, Paint Pot side. Yeah, the Paint Pot side is just, it's creamier and it's easier to work with. The Putty Primer is just dry. It almost feels like it needs more like water or oil or whatever they used as like the mixing agent. Right, going in with that Peach. The Putty Eye Primer does catch the shadow nicely though. That's why it's such a hard call, is because even though the texture is so dry, it catches eyeshadow really nicely. It is a nice eyeshadow base, it's just dry. See, and like side by side, I almost feel like the Putty Eye Primer gives the shimmer shadow a little bit more like kick, oomph, and maybe this is just in person. I'm going to go and finish the rest of my eyes, lower lash line, liner, lashes, the whole 9 yards, and then we'll be back for final thoughts, because I have a few. I have a few final thoughts. Eyes finished. What do we think? It's like 7:30, no, it's like 8:13 at night, so I did not do an extra super duper good job of gluing my lashes on. So sorry. However, final thoughts on this dupe situation. Do I see how people could think and or say that the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer is a dupe for the MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot? Yes. If someone were to ask me for a dupe for the MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot, would I recommend the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer? Probably not. And it all really breaks down to the texture of the product. They both performed very well. Do I think side by side on the eye they performed well? Yes. So in that regard, yes, it is a dupe. However, the texture is so unbelievably different. It's a no-go for me. However, that doesn't mean that either product performed badly or that I wouldn't recommend the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. It just, to me, is not an exact dupe for the Paint Pot, if that makes sense. As you can see, like, the Putty Eye Primer and the Paint Pot both did a fantastic job in terms of being an eyeshadow primer. So like, in that regard, as eyeshadow primers, yes, they are dupes and they are variations, and so if you're against MAC or you want to save $17, go for the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. But for me personally, in my recommendations, can I honestly say that they're dupes? No, only because the texture of them is so completely different that they perform so differently. You have to work with them very differently. It's a no for me. But both products are really nice. So like the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer is a very nice eyeshadow base. I just prefer concealer. The Paint Pot is a very nice eyeshadow. I just prefer like concealer and or a nude eyeshadow, if that makes sense. I will link them down in the description box below, so if you'd like to check out either of them, you can do it on your own time. I will also link all of the products that I used on my face in the description box below, so if you are interested in any of them, or if you are interested in this look, you can check out those products on your own time in the description box. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section. Do you like dupes? Do you not like dupes? Do you like this series? Do you like this look? Have you tried either of these, the Paint Pot or the Putty Eye Primer? Let's start a conversation. Tell me all of that in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video or if you like dupe videos, give it a big old thumbs up. As always, please be sure to subscribe and hit the little notification bell. I have so many good dupes for this month or this series. I would hate for you to miss out on any of them, so please be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, guys.